board. I'm going to share. I'll play the song for a little bit just to get us settled. So yesterday we ended halfway through 12. So I'm going to start at 12 again. Oops.
इष्टान् भोगान् हि वो देवाः दास्यन्ते यज्ञभाविताः तैर्दत्तानप्रदायैभ्यः यो भुङ्क्तेस्तेन एव सः
In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied with the performance of yajna, sacrifice, supply all necessities to man. But he who enjoys these gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. The demigods are authorized supplying agents on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Therefore, they must be satisfied by the performance of prescribed yajnas. In the Vedas, there are different kinds of yajnas prescribed for different kinds of demigods, but all are ultimately offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For one who cannot understand what the Personality of Godhead is, sacrifice to the demigods is recommended. According to the different material qualities of the person concerned, different types of yajnas are recommended to the Vedas. Are recommended in the Vedas. Worship of different demigods is also on the same basis, namely according to different qualities. For example, the meat eaters are recommended to worship the goddess Kali, the ghastly form of material nature, and before the goddess, the sacrifices of animals is recommended. But for those who are in the mode of goodness, the transcendental worship of Vishnu is recommended. But ultimately, all yajnas are meant for gradual promotion to the transcendental position. For ordinary men, at least 5 yajnas, known as Pancha Mahayajna, are necessary. One should know, however, that all the necessities of life that the human society require are supplied by the demigod agent of the Lord. No one can manufacture anything. Take, for example, all the eatables of human society. These eatables include grains, fruits, vegetables, milk, sugar, etc., for the persons in the mode of goodness, and also eatables for the non-vegetarians, like meats, etc., none of which can be manufactured by men. Then again, take, for example, heat, light, water, air, etc., which are also necessities of life. None of them can be manufactured by the human society. Without the Supreme Lord, there can be no profuse sunlight, moonlight, rainfall, supplies from rainfall, breeze, etc., without which no one can live. Obviously, our life is dependent on supplies from the Lord. Even For our manufacturing enterprises, we require so many raw materials like metal, sulfur, mercury, manganese, and so many essentials, all of which are supplied by the agents of the Lord, with the purpose that we should make proper use of them to keep ourselves fit and healthy for the purpose of self-realization, leading to the ultimate goal of life, namely liberation from the material struggle for existence. This aim of life is attained by performance of yajnas. If we forget the purpose of human life and simply take supplies from the agents of the Lord for sense gratification and become more and more entangled in material existence, which is not the purpose of creation, certainly we become thieves, and therefore we are punished by the laws of material nature. A society of thieves can never be happy because they have no aim in life. The gross materialistic thieves have no ultimate goal of life. They are simply directed to sense gratification, nor do they have knowledge of how to perform yajnas. Lord Chaitanya, however, inaugurated the easiest performance of yajna, namely the Sankirtana yajna, which can be performed by anyone in the world who accepts the principles of Krishna consciousness.
यज्ञशिष्टाशिनः सन्तः मुच्यन्ते सर्वकिल्बिषैः भुञ्जते ते त्वघं पापाः के पचन्त्यात्मकारणात्।
The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense of enjoyment verily eat only sin. The devotees of the Supreme Lord, or the persons who are in Krishna consciousness, are called santas. I mean, it looks like Santas to me. That's why I'm looking up santas. And they are always in love with the Lord, as it is described in the Brahma Samhita. Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilokanina Santa Sandiva Herdayesu Vilokayanti. The santas, being always in a compact of love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, the giver of all pleasures, or Mukunda, the giver of liberation, or Krishna, the all-attractive person, cannot accept anything without first offering it to the Supreme Person. Therefore, such devotees always perform yajnas in different modes of devotional service, such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Samaranam, Arkanam, etc. And these performances of yajnas keep them always aloof from all kinds of contamination of sinful association in the material world. Others who prepare food for self or sense gratification are not only thieves, but are also the eaters of all kinds of sins. How can a person be happy if he is both a thief and sinful? It is not possible. Therefore, in order for people to become happy in all respects, they must be taught to perform the easy process of Sankirtana Yajna in a full Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, there can be no peace or happiness in the world.
अन्नाद् भवन्ति भूतानि पर्जन्यादन्न सम्भवः यज्ञात् भवति पर्जन्यः यज्ञः कर्म समुद्भवः
All living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rain. Rains are produced by performance of yajna, sacrifice, and yajna is born of prescribed duties. Srila Baladeva Vidya Bhusana, a great commentator on Bhagavad Gita, writes as follows: Ye Indra di Agna Tayavas Tam Yajnam Sarveshvaram Vishnam Arbi Artraya Taksinam Asanti Tena Tadeya Yantram Sampadayanti Te Santa Sarvi Varasaya Bhakta Sarva Kilvaser Anadi Kala Thridair Achman Prati Band Akar Nikaler Paper Vimas Yanti. The Supreme Lord, who is known as Yajna Parusa, or the personal beneficiary of all sacrifices, is the master of all demigods who serve him as the different limbs of the body serve the whole. Demigods like Indra, Kandra, Varuna, etc., are appointed officers who manage material affairs, and the Vedas direct sacrifices to satisfy these demigods so that they may be pleased to supply air, light, and water sufficiently to produce food grains. When Lord Krishna is worshipped, the demigods, who are different limbs of the Lord, are also automatically worshipped. Therefore, there is no separate need to worship the demigods. For this reason, the devotees of the Lord who are in Krishna consciousness offer food to Krishna and then eat, a process which nourishes the body spiritually. But such action not only are past sinful reactions, in the body vanquished, but the body becomes immunized. I should know this word with everything going on right now. To all contamination of material nature. When there is an epidemic disease, an antiseptic vaccine protects a person from the attack of such an epidemic. Similarly, food offered to Vishnu and then taken by us makes us sufficiently resistant to material affection, and one who is accustomed to this practice is called the devotee of the Lord. Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness who eats only food offered to Krishna can counteract all reactions of past material infections, which are impediments to the progress of self-realization. On the other hand, one who does not do so continues to increase the volume of sinful action, and this prepares the next body to resemble hogs and dogs, to suffer the resultant reaction of all sins. The material world is full of contaminations, and one who is immunized by accepting prasadam of the Lord, food offered to Vishnu, is saved from the attack, whereas one who does not do so becomes subjected to contamination. Food grains or vegetables are factually eatables. The human being eats different kinds of food grains, vegetables, fruits, etc., and the animals eat the refuse of the food, grains, and vegetables, grass, plants, etc. Human beings who are accustomed to eating meat and flesh must also depend on the production of vegetables in order to eat the animals. Therefore, ultimately, we have to depend on the production of the field and not on the production of the big factories. The field production is due to sufficient rain from the sky, and such rains are controlled by demigods like Indra, sun, moon, etc. And they are all servants of the Lord. The Lord can be satisfied by sacrifices. Therefore, one who cannot perform them will find himself in scarcity. That is the law of nature. Yajna, specifically the Sankirtana Yajna prescribed for this age, must therefore be performed to save us at least from scarcity of food supply.
कर्म ब्रह्मोद्भवं विद्धि ब्रह्माक्षरसमुद्भवम् तस्मात् सर्वगतं ब्रह्म नित्यं यज्ञे प्रतिष्ठितम्.
Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. Yajnartha Kama, or the necessity of work for the satisfaction of Krishna only, is more expressly stated in this verse. If we have to work for the satisfaction of Yajna Purusa, Vishnu, then we must find out the direction of work in Brahman, or the transcendental Vedas. The Vedas are therefore codes of working directions. Anything performed without the direction of the Vedas is called vikarma, or unauthorized or sinful work. Therefore, one should always take the direction from the Vedas to be saved from the reaction of work. As one has to work in ordinary life by the direction of the state, similarly, one has to work under direction of the supreme state of the Lord. Such directions in the Vedas are directly manifested from the breathing of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is said, Asaya Mahato Bhut Asaya Nasvitam Itad Yad Rig Veda Vedo Yaj Yurveda Samavedo Larvan Gurisa. The four Vedas, namely the Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Artha Veda, are all emanations from the breathing of the great personality of Godhead. The Lord, being omnipotent, can speak by breathing air, as it is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita, for the Lord has the omnipotence to perform through each of his senses the actions of all the other senses. In other words, the Lord can speak through his breathing, and he can impregnate by his eyes. In fact, it is said that he glanced over material nature and thus fathered all living entities. After creating or impregnating the conditioned souls into the womb of material nature, he gave his directions in the Vedic wisdom as to how such conditioned souls can return home back to Godhead. We should always remember that the conditioned souls in the material nature are eager for the material enjoyment, but the Vedic directions are so made that one can satisfy one's perverted desires, then return to Godhead, having finished his so-called enjoyment. It is a chance for the conditioned souls to attain liberation. Therefore, the conditioned souls must try to follow the process of yajna by becoming Krishna conscious. Even those who cannot follow the Vedic injunctions may adopt the principles of Krishna consciousness, and that will take the place of performance of Vedic yajnas or karmas.
एवं प्रवर्तितं चक्रम् नानुवर्तयते हयः अघायुरिन्द्रिया रामः मोघं पार्थ स जीवति.
My dear Arjuna, a man who does not follow this prescribed Vedic system of sacrifice certainly leads a life of sin, for a person delighting only in the senses lives in vain. The Mammonist philosophy of work very hard and enjoy sense gratification is condemned herein by the Lord. Therefore, for those who want to enjoy this material world, the above-mentioned cycle of performing yajnas is absolutely necessary. One who does not follow such regulations is living a very risky life, being condemned more and more. By nature's law, this human form of life is specifically meant for self-realization in either of the three ways, namely karma yoga, jnana yoga, or bhakti yoga. There is no necessity of rigidly following the performance of the prescribed yajnas for the transcendentalists who are above vice and virtue. But those who are engaged in sense gratification require purification by the above-mentioned cycle of yajna performances. There are different kinds of activities. Those who are not Krishna conscious are certainly engaged in sensory consciousness. Therefore, they need to execute pious work. The yajna system is planned in such a way that sensory conscious persons may satisfy their desires without becoming entangled in the reaction of sense gratificatory work. The prosperity of the work depends not on our own efforts, but on the background arrangement of the Supreme Lord, directly carried out by the demigods. Therefore, the yajnas are directly aimed at the particular demigod mentioned in the Vedas. Indirectly, it is the practice of Krishna consciousness, because when one masters the performance of yajnas, one is sure to become Krishna conscious. But if by performing yajnas one does not become Krishna conscious, such principles are counted as only moral codes. One should not, therefore, limit his progress only to the point of moral codes, but should transcend them to attain Krishna consciousness. I'll read one more and then we'll pause.
यस्त्वात्मरतिरेव स्यात् आत्मतृप्तश्च मानवः आत्मन्येव च सन्तुष्टः तस्य कार्यं न विद्यते.
One who is, however, taking pleasure in the self, who is illumined in the self, who rejoices in and is satisfied with the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty. A person who is fully Krishna conscious and is fully satisfied by his acts in Krishna conscious no longer has any duty to perform. Due to his being Krishna conscious, all impiety within is instantly cleansed, an effort of many thousands of yajna performances. By such clearing of consciousness, one who becomes fully confident of his eternal position in relationship with the Supreme, his duty thus becomes self-illumined by the grace of the Lord, and therefore he no longer has any obligations to the Vedic injunctions. Such a Krishna conscious person is no longer interested in material activities and no longer takes pleasure in material arrangements like wine, women, and similar infatuations. So I'm going to pause there and we'll start on 18 tomorrow. Oh. We've been going over a little bit. I have to end at 8:30 today because I have a very busy work morning. But if you guys want to keep going, I'm just letting you know I have to drop. I have to be done at 8:30. I wanted to look something up. Any thoughts, questions?
Well, in 16, I think it says it's not good enough to live by a moral code. You really need to aim for Krishna consciousness. So even if you're living a good life and maybe by, I don't know, maybe this isn't, so suppose you are cooking every day with the thought to offer it up for your family, you know, or you're making stuff with their well-being in mind. That's not good enough. You have to aim towards a more transcendental consciousness. So I'm wondering if that's what it really says. And then in 17, it says, once again, there's another reason not to follow the Vedic injunctions. If you're already reaching Krishna consciousness, you don't need to follow all those Vedic rituals and injunctions. Is that what it's saying?
I also caught that last sentence too of 16, and I almost paused there because it like confused me a little bit. I'm rereading it and I think what they're saying is if you're Okay, so actually, I keep getting this visual in my head. I think what it's saying is if you're doing the sacrifices, but you're not becoming Krishna conscious, it's not counted as sacrifices. It's just counted as like a moral code, and you're not going to get to Krishna conscious that way. I guess what I keep picturing while I was reading today is like an athlete. I don't know if you guys watch sports, but in professional sports, occasionally I watch Major League Baseball and football. Occasionally, a player will come to, in baseball, his batting turn, and he'll do like the sign of the cross, or he'll hit a home run. And I'm saying he because I'm watching the men's sport. So he will hit a home run and he'll run the bases and he'll get to home plate and then he'll point to the sky and do the cross or, something. Yep. And then in football, similar things happen. You'll occasionally see like guys, again, I'm talking about the male, so I'm purposely using that pronoun, but you'll see them before the game. They'll sing the Star Spangled Banner or the national, whatever song they sing, and they'll have their hands together in like a prayer, or they'll score a touchdown and they'll get down on one knee and do the sign of the cross. So to me, I feel like when they're doing that, like, are they offering every time they show up to bat to the Lord, or are they just doing it as a gesture out of habit that becomes not to the Lord? Because do you really think they're going to bat? Do we really think that they're going to the bat as their duty to serve the Lord, or are they going to bat to hit a home run and win for their team and earn a paycheck? Or is that also all part of his duty? So like I feel like depending on what that person, and we don't know, I mean, we'll never know, we can just assume and judge what that person's doing, but I feel like that those would be my two examples. Like the person that's going up there and just doing the sign just because he's done it his whole life and it really doesn't mean anything to him. It's just like going through the motions versus the person that's like genuine about it. And that person is going to. So it's like one should not therefore limit his progress only to the point of moral code. So like, I guess what I'm thinking is like, just because you're making the sign of the cross doesn't mean you're going to get the Krishna consciousness. Like you really have to want it, or really like transcend the sign. I don't know. I have no idea. That's just what kept coming up for me.
That's interesting.
Because I always think about like when I go to Eric's dad's house, his dad is very religious in the Catholic faith, and they say a prayer before dinner. It's something they all grew up with. I do not put my hands together and bow my head and say amen because it has no meaning to me. I'm not just going to go through the motions but his family will do it because that's how they were raised. But they're just doing it to go through the motions. There's no meaning behind their actual doing it. They're just doing it to be respectful to their father. And I can get that part too. But I stopped doing things that didn't make sense to me a long time ago. So if something like saying the word amen after someone says a prayer doesn't feel right to me, I don't do it anymore. So like, I think, and it goes back to what we've been talking about for the past few weeks, the idea behind having an intention behind everything.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Well, some of this I on a very personal level, some of this really bothers me because I get to this end result or this end underlying statement of, honey, if you don't believe, you can live as good a life as is possible. You could be Saint Teresa and you still ain't got it. And there's a part of me that thinks, well then, F you, And so maybe that's just,
I think we just got more work to do. Because I'm with you, Sue. I hear you. I feel the
yeah,
same way.
yep. I mean, if you go back to the beginning of this, when you guys were reading the 130 pages of introductions, a lot of it said, you can read this as a parable or as a fable, or you can really believe in it, or you could just be doing a sociological / cultural study, but here it is, and uh, and this is the part where it starts getting, I see it as judgmental about you either believe or you don't believe. I'm sure the people thousands of years ago who put it together said, this isn't judgmental, this is just the way it is,
Yeah.
which is much the same as I heard in the Catholic Church growing up.
Yeah.
You know, it's, yeah, you should go to church every Sunday and you should blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of shoulds, but even if you do those, if you don't believe, oh well, you're not saved.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I feel like they're saying. It's the same idea with the baseball players. Like if you show up to church every Sunday and go through the motions, but aren't truly believing, it's like a moral code versus actually being Krishna conscious.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Well, I keep on thinking maybe I'll come back. I want to be able to row really well next time. So maybe that'll happen.
That's awesome. I want to be able to sing really well next time.
Oh, okay. I'll look for you.
I also wouldn't mind coming back as a dog. Like they said, if you're gonna like not sacrifice up your food, you come back as a hug or a dog next time. But I feel like nowadays dogs are treated so well that I wouldn't mind coming back as Kramer.
Well, not every dog has Kramer's life. You
I
give
know, but not
Kramer
every
a
person
wonderful
has
life.
a nice life either. So I wouldn't mind coming back as a nice spoiled doggy next time.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. I'll look for you.
Yeah, I'll be. Oh.
I look at things a little differently, and I wanted to share. I don't let a lot of the fine print get to me. I just take what I like and leave what I don't. So the ball player that's doing that, I mean, there could be like at least 3 different reasons why he's doing it. He's doing it because, he has this communication with the Lord that, be with me today. I really need you. Oh, thank you for doing this for me. It could be, or he could really be a true believer, or maybe he's just doing it out of habit. There could be many different reasons why he's doing it. And when I'm at a dinner table and people are praying and they're saying amen or whatever they're saying, I take it as my time to pray for the food. No matter which way I'm saying it, in my mind, I'm being grateful for this food. So I don't know. I felt like it was a big battle or a high mountain to climb if I made it my business to like correct these old texts. I feel like that's where their mindset was at that time, and there's some good out of it, so I'm just going to take the good.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I feel like reading this text, my practice is keep an open mind and stop judging. You're right. Like, I'm never going to know what those baseball players are doing. It's none of my business, just like it's none of anyone's business when I'm sitting around a kitchen table, what I'm doing in front of my plate. Like, I can practice my gratitude. I don't have to pray the way you're praying.
Yes.
So I get it. Like, I hear you. And that's what I'm getting out of this book. And I love it. I'm trying to be less judgy, more open-minded, and just like stay in my lane, like just focus on myself. Don't worry about everyone else. Yeah,
It's hard enough just to do that.
it's so hard. And like we don't want to focus on ourselves because it's so hard. So we focus on other people and then becomes problematic.
Well, the only issue I have with that is that texts like these are often used as tools to be judgmental and punishing of other people.
Yeah.
Often. So somebody can read it in a very open-minded way, or in a very accepting and way, in both of which the two of you just described. Someone else can read it and say, see, I told you so, you're going to go to hell, or you're going to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, that is enough for me today. There you go.
All right. Well, we'll continue tomorrow. And I forgot I had a quote I wanted. I'm going to write it down. I'll share it tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday, right? So we'll make it fun Friday.
Yeah, and I got to tell you about a Buddhist death metal band I just heard. So,
All right.
but
So I'm
that's-
writing that down, Buddha band. So that we'll have a few minutes before we start tomorrow and we'll chat and then we'll move into it because I think tomorrow won't be as crazy. Hopefully.
Okay.
But
I meditated already, so I'm going to check out because I got to get the kids ready.
okay. Enjoy your day.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. I can
Bye,
stay
Alexander.
on. Where did I put my
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Mhm.
I'll stay on. I can stay on a few minutes extra, but not. Oh, I just didn't want to stay on too long. So I'm gonna lead you through breath. I'll set the timer for 20 minutes, and then if you need to drop off early, go for it. Take a few breaths into the nose, out through the nose. Find that straight spine, strong core. Relax the jaw and the face. Bringing your hand over to your nose, taking a few rounds of alternate nostril breathing. So you'll close up the right nostril with the thumb. Inhale through the left. Close the left, exhale right. Inhale right. Close right, exhale left. Continuing like that on your own breath, adding locks and retention if it's in your practice for as many rounds as you need this morning. I'm going to set the timer now, but you'll join us when you're ready. Oops. Bringing your hands together. Namaste.
Namaste. See you tomorrow, Pam.